When I do these live streams, I always talk to my friends. I pretend they're here. I talk to the friends that I know I have, and maybe to the ones that I don't know that I have. Maybe ones that will come to be in the future. Maybe even after I'm gone. I also talk to my enemies. Between the lines, of course. Please read the description. It's relevant. To the title, which is a bit anemic. I don't rack my brains anymore. I sit quietly for a moment or two, and I listen. And I watch. Just to see if anything will appear. Nothing appeared, except for a cliché. I thought I might find like a strikingly poetic new turn of phrase. I suppose I did, the last line of that description, but it seemed too cumbersome. Actually, now that I think about it, that would make a good title. A healthy forest periodically must burn. That's not a bad title. Maybe I'll go back and change it. Of course, then I have to rewrite the description, which I thought was not bad. Anyway, I talk to my friends. Blessings in disguise. A healthy forest periodically must burn. And after you've died a number of times, the fear that it has over you gradually loses its power. This morning I lost a cakewalk project file. If you don't know anything about this kind of work, then what I'm about to explain is not going to make a whole lot of sense to you, but anyway, it's a good thing that I was pretty happy with the levels and the EQs, and I'd worked on it quite a. I was basically done with it. But I was still, it still stressed me out. And I was very fortunate that I had exported the stems with all the EQs and levels and automations and plug-in processing, everything. So that all I really had to do was go to a previous iteration of the project. It still had the same 2-bus and just delete all the tracks and import all the stems, and boom. I had the project that I had lost just without the any. Well, as I thought at first, without the ability to do any further tweaking on the individual tracks. But I wasn't really thinking. My first time, I had never done that before. Reconstituted a project from stems. And so I didn't know what to expect. I wasn't even thinking about what to expect. That's what I was served a minor misfortune, and that's what I had. And so, I had a bit of a crisis. I was very concerned about losing more project files because it was completely inexplicable how it happened. Right? So I had to go out and really put my foot down and get the thing that was needed. And I didn't have the money. So I had to call Mrs. Lean Bear and just say, this has to happen. Here's the store's bank account number. Please get on the phone and send the money. It helped that I got paid this morning from my one online class. But anyway, so all right, so I put out that fire, and then another fire that's very low smoldering fire. I had to deal with that. And then the evening's getting on, and it's been a long, kind of stressful day, and I work every night, pretty much without fail. I don't watch movies. I don't scroll through YouTube or social media or anything like that, because as this song talks about, or relates, I'm aware that the lyrics are not my usual kind of lyrics. The lyrics have some cliches in them. It's interesting. It just really occurred to me clearly right now. It's interesting how that comes up in context to the title of this, Blessings in Disguise, and what I had to say about cliches. I'm aware there's cliches in the song, and sometimes I think it's good to use cliches. I might even say it can be an act of daring to use a cliche when you know it's a cliche. You're almost challenging yourself to renew it somehow, to bring life back to it. It's a real risk, It's like, can I use a cliche and pull it off? Anyway, the road takes its toll. That's it's cliche, right? It sounds like one. We're not getting any younger. Holding on to this rock as it circles the sun. Those are not lyrics that I typically write. I'm always looking for a new, striking way to say something in a original, poetic way. That's my way. That's my wheelhouse. And when I wrote this song, I was in a period of such quiet, desperate, but quiet despair. I could hardly move my body for like an hour after I woke up in the morning. I would just lie there inside the shell of my body, feeling that my body was this inanimate shell, like a sarcophagus. Is that the right word? Sarcophagus? Like the wrappings around a mummy. That's what my body would feel like in the morning when I woke up. Like, I didn't know if I could move it. I knew I could, but it felt like I didn't know if I could move it. And it felt empty. It felt like this, it felt enormous in the sense that I felt so small inside of it. I felt that I could barely inhabit it. I slept on the floor because I didn't have a bed. I didn't have a room. I had a drinking problem. My marriage was very strained for a number of reasons. And my problem with alcohol was no small part of that, and other miseries that I was going through. But a lot of it was like circumstantial. Like I would have been pretty miserable even if I didn't have that alcohol problem. You can't blame everything, all the problems and miseries. I mean, being an alcoholic's a problem, but like getting sober doesn't make all the problems go away, and not all the problems can be laid at the feet of alcohol abuse either, right? Anyway, that was a very, very dark and difficult time. And I didn't have any music in me at all. And one of my brothers in arms, who's a professional musician and who engineered my album back in 2006, and who played a fair bit of guitar on it. He ran a music festival in Central Seoul for many years, and I helped him do that twice a year for quite a number of years. And in the middle of that dark valley of despair that I was in, he told me that this is going to be the last one. This is going to be the last festival. The last festival took place in a neighborhood in Central Seoul where there were a lot of expats, and actually, yeah, very international part of the city. And it was clear that he Well, it seemed to me that this is going to be the last one. I had to do a set. I had to find it in me to do a set. Even though I just I just described how I was feeling. Like I felt so small and so insubstantial inside that I couldn't even imagine how I could get up in front of a group of people and pull off playing a set of any kind. But some things just have to be done. Like there are no excuses. It is at least a valiant attempt must be made. And I made it. I gave it my best, the best I could muster, and I failed miserably. It was humiliating. It was in the fall of that year, about maybe 4 years ago now. This coming fall, 3 or 4, maybe I think 4. Right. And I didn't want to do. I didn't want to do older songs that I'd done before. Well, I guess I did a couple, but I just, for some reason, I wanted to try to write new songs. I guess I figured, well, I'm attempting to do the impossible anyway. I might as well. And this song is one of the songs that I tried to write. And I remember writing it. It's a cliche. That's kind of hackneyed. But that's all I got right now. But the thing is, I meant those things. I meant them. I couldn't think of a more poetic way of putting them. I couldn't think of anything clever. Nothing clever or striking appeared in the sky of my mind. And I decided to be kind to myself and accepting, and I suppose I reasoned, well, this is what I mean. This is what I mean to say. And I'm going to say it the best way that I presently can. And I feel awful enough about myself and my life as it is. There's no point in there's no point in beating myself up because I wrote some cliches, you know. This is what I want to say, and so be it. So that's kind of the backstory of this song, Perennial. And if you don't know what that word means outside of botany, you know, old ladies talking about flowers, look it up. P-E-R-E-N-N-I-A-L. Right? So life moved on as it always does, and I endured and survived and And here I am in a much better situation, and I overcame my alcohol problem, but I still have problems. Like, as people do, right? And I still feel and mean everything in this song. And so, when I dusted it off, when I pulled it out of an old sheaf of lyrics, and I thought about recording it, Of course I thought, it's not really that well written, is it? I mean, you were really, really down when you struggled to write this. It's really not up to your standards, is it? As a lyricist, of course, that was the inner critic. That was of course, that was my first response. But very quickly, I remembered. Sometimes it's not good to try too hard and be too clever. Always be trying to prove something to yourself and other people. I have a friend who recently made this point about a vocal part in a song of mine. And in fact, he kind of made the point about the entire mix. He said, I really liked that earlier mix. It was, I'm kind of paraphrasing, but the gist of it was the new one is more refined and polished, and it's really, really good, but the original just had this vulnerability and honesty, And I said, yeah, I know what you're saying. I have some of the same feelings myself, and I didn't just say that just to be agreeable. I'm not an agreeable sort of person. Even when I really, really like somebody, I generally don't just say things to be agreeable. I truthfully said, yeah, well, I get it. And I actually have some of the same feelings about it. And with this song, it's the same idea. I looked at those lyrics and I'm going to get emotional again. I thought back on the man who wrote them. And I thought, yeah, I could, now I've got my quill is sharp again, and I could probably sit down and rewrite this and write circles around that guy. But I felt so much sorrow for that guy and compassion that I thought that would be, in some sense, it would be a mean and even somewhat cruel thing to do. I thought, give the guy his due. Honor his his honesty and his vulnerability. Honor that guy. And so I didn't change a word. But it was only a little more than half written. It was a verse and a refrain and a verse and a refrain and a bridge. It was kind of like a Pink Floyd song in that way. It was really odd. Verse, refrain, bridge. End. Because it's all that guy had. So I'm not gonna one up that guy. I'm gonna honor him and his words. But I am going to take the baton and run forward with it. And so that's what I did. And so that guy's legacy is intact. And he and I are on the same team. He's got my back and I've got his back. This might seem like a really odd way to talk about life, but well, this is why I'm not everybody's cup of tea. But anyways, there's a backstory behind this song, and that's why it's special to me. And I don't really care if anyone thinks it's just got cliches in it. If they don't get it, then they haven't died enough. Now, this morning, there was a bit of a fire. Something got burnt down, and I put it back together as best I could. And I called the file restoration. I could have called it reconstruction, but I don't know. I didn't even think about it. I just called it perennial restoration. Didn't even think about it. But now I look at it and I think, that's right. That's right. And so and then the bigger, deeper, smoldering fire that I dealt with. And just, wow, that's been a long day, and I work every night, but I want something really just low impact and chill. So I thought, what should I do? And again, I don't rack my brains anymore. I just sit and kind of gaze at the question. And out of the mist, it just appears like, hey, why don't you look at that restoration? And then it put me in mind of where else have I heard that word? Where else do you see that word? Like counting cars. That History Channel show that. The dude in Las Vegas that does all those restorations of old cars, It's a tick. And or like a lot of things, restoring a house or restoring an ancient watch or any number of things. And I'm tempted to like go on an etymology dive, but it doesn't seem like the time. Anyway, it's a lovely word, restoration. It also has like this nuance of what? It's hard to. It's indistinct. It's like it has this feeling of bringing back, making things right again, right? Restoring the kingdom to its proper state, right? Restoring fairness and balance and justice. You follow me? And so I was looking at this screen. There it is, restoration. And suddenly I was kind of enchanted that I named it that, you know. Maybe enchanted, that's too faggy of a word. I was, but kind of like, I was a little bit like, kind of a little hazy-eyed. And, restoration, cool. Because I guess suddenly it's kind of like it gained this little like shimmer of promise and mystery. And it became really inviting. And so, I'll go in there. And I have no idea what's in there. I mean, I know what's in there, but it seems like there's something in there that I haven't accounted for. Like, I'm going to discover something in there. Yeah, I'm going to discover something in there, you know? Yeah. And so I clicked in. Right? And so if I go into track view, is actually what I was looking at. Actually, I'll show you exactly what I was looking at. This is that. Why do they look just like straight lines? I don't know. I mean, there are waveforms in there. If I, what? Let's see. Like, if I do that, right? But they don't look the same. It's, I mean, they've been rendered, right? But like when I used to freeze tracks in the original project, they never looked like this. I don't know. I just never saw a project look like this before in it. Wow, this is so like, when I first saw it, I was like, this sucks, man. Like when I first saw this, I was still stressed out and upset about my misfortune, and I looked at it and like, what the fuck is this? You know? But now I'm looking at it with like a different pair of eyes, a different mindset. I'm like, this is really, it's kind of pretty. It's different, you know? And then I'm like, I'm the kid in the sandbox again. Like, well, there's nothing I can do to hurt it. What's going on here? What can I do now that I couldn't do before? I think, yeah. So that's the type of question that I've kind of been getting into the habit of asking myself. It's kind of like, you know, well, where's the opportunity? It's maybe another way of putting it, right? And Yeah, what are the blessings in disguise? And to have, at some level, a sense of trust that there are blessings, if one has eyes to see. And suddenly, it's like a little bell went ding. You remember how you always, like, you wanted to explore those Air Windows console systems, but by the time you get to the end of a project, you know, you're constantly battling CPU problem. You know, there's a lot of plugins, and so what is the Air Windows console system? Well, you've heard me go on about Air Windows before. And it looks like this, right? So I'm going to open an Air Windows plugin here, right? And of course, inside this plugin is a toolkit with lots of different plugins, categorized, right? And one category is consoles. And some of these are meant to emulate actual consoles in the real physical world, and some of them are not emulations. They are they're consoles that never existed in the real world. They were born in the mind of the man who created these by asking himself, well, what if I had this console and that console, and you know that console, but that console's preamps and transformers, and I put them together. I don't know if I'm just like pulling stuff out of the air to give you an idea of, right? Or like the way this guy thinks is like, well, what if I had a console that, you know, summed everything with zero mantissa? I mean, this kind of thing, right? Stuff that's beyond my understanding, technical, right? But here's the main thing to know. There's like a real sizable, extensive, one might say daunting wealth of possibilities in here. And there's many years of work on this man's part. But one thing that most of them have in common is that, so right here you can see consoles, console LA bus, console LA channel. So the way they work is that console, so you put the bus one at the beginning of your two bus chain, and you put the console one, or the channel, I'm sorry, you put the bus plug-in at the beginning of your two bus chain, and you put the channel one at the end of every channel, at the end of every track. Okay? And this was to do this at the and it was something that I wanted to do at the end of the mixing process, because I didn't want to base an entire mix on this man's console plugins. I didn't want to build the mix on the console plugin. if that makes any sense. I was much more interested in seeing what the console plugins what they would do to my mix. But again, by the end of the project, just to be able to just forget to get playback because CPU load, constantly freezing and unfreezing, and that takes time, and there's just way more effort and time than I was willing to go through. And so I tried it a couple of times, but I just by the time I'd get done with all the tedious work that it took to install, just one of these console systems, I'd be tired of it, and I just couldn't listen to it I just couldn't make an assessment. I just couldn't make a fair assessment. So I just gave up. Well, suddenly here I have a golden opportunity to just check them out. So easy. I've got no other plugins. Okay? I go to my console view, right? And that's it. Okay, I got one more right here, which I'll be talking about. This is all Air Windows, right? All the same one. I just inserted it in track 1 and then just copied it over right across. Console LA channel right across, and then console LA bus in the 2 bus. And it's easy, just easy peasy, lemon squeezy, as little kids here like to say. Some of them anyway. And this is going to be a long one. And I really should be in bed. But I have to do this. I hope you're up to it. I hope you have the time. But if you don't, that's okay. But so, I'm going to take the time. And if I don't like this one, all I have to do is just sweep back through. It just takes a minute. Just choose another console. Easy. And suddenly, it's like, wow, man. Like, what a blessing. Like, what a blessing that is. And it came as a direct result of misfortune. Really, 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 it's the kind of thing where, again, it's like, it's cliche. It's like, really, now let it sink in. Maybe put yourself in my shoes. I really, really wanted to check these out for a long time. But just couldn't. By the time you get done spending like dozens, if not like up into the hundreds of hours on a project, and it I just didn't have the jam. Right? But suddenly, boom, there it is. But this is only half the story. Because if you made it this far, if you make it this far, and you see this talk through, I think you're going to agree with me that this is something that's on a whole nother level. And I'm going to tie it back into my talk from a few nights ago about thoughts on analog versus digital. And I said, it's a fool's errand. It just can't happen. Because at the end of the day, it's like analog is one set of chromosomes and digital is the other set of chromosomes. And I said, if I'm wrong, if I'm proven wrong, I'll gladly wear the egg on my face. Now, I don't know if it's time to crack that egg and plop it down onto my face. Okay? But I think it might be. Maybe I'll come to my senses in the morning. But I don't think so. Let's just read real quick what this thing is, okay? And I think you'll see exactly why I chose this one out of all the ones to choose from. Console LA channel is the Air Windows take on the Quad 8 console. APIs and Neves and MCI, oh my. Well, Console A emulates the most incredible console you've never heard of. This thing was the sound of LA in the 70s. It's on the back cover of Steely Dan records. It's been seen in Tom Scholz's basement, and it's heard even on classic 70s LA and Hollywood and San Francisco records it didn't make, because it's the production model of a whole lineage. Is that lineage or lineage? Of West Coast custom recording consoles with similar designs and circuitry. And you can still get them. Apparently, the company lives, but I don't know where or for how much or how, as there's no sign of prices or any way to get them. There's... Well, get them. Okay, and there's none on Reverb. Vintage King doesn't have any. Good luck even finding channel strips. Meet the Quad 8. Did you know about the Quad 8? I didn't. This sound echoes through the 70s. Tons of Steely Dan, tons of Zappa, Grateful Dead, Neil Young, Joni Mitchell. That's not even counting the wilder sightings, like when people figured this console mixed the wall, or hearing it on Yes's Relayer album. The thing is, this was the big production console before the days of Neve and API and SSL. Quad 8 were the first to go into production and come up with a recording console that you could just buy, set up, and use. Before them, you had to build your own. Quad 8 are, since the website says they can still make you gear, supplying the film industry, and it shows. These desks are amazing at making movies for your ears. In the Zappa phrase, on the Hot Rats album, which was done at the Whitney Studios in Glendale the year before they got a Neve, so that album was likely also Quad 8 or a kindred West Coast console. Console LA, like Console MC before it, is a bit of a different approach to emulating these great old dinosaurs. Some still things you could conceivably find and have, some forever lost. The thing is, this is the nearest thing to custom point-to-point wiring of discrete transistors. This is the nearest thing to custom point-to-point wiring of discrete transistors. This. On top of that, the Quad 8 ran a higher supply voltage than anybody, negative 28 to positive 28 volts, for enormous energy and headroom. The way to get these sounds is not layer upon layer of digital emulation, but trying to get the behaviors right with minimal atypical algorithms. Only then can you get the energy and sonority of the real Quad 8. You ever actually interacted with a genius? This is how they talk. The filtering is a whole other thing from the MCI. No mid-peak here. The slopes are more gradual, but you can cut the hell out of the mids. And the deeper into the 70s we got, the deeper the mid-range cuts became. What I've done with Console LA is try to make the simplest, most approachable console system that can get the widest range of sounds as heard on these records, and reward you when you pursue music recording in the old school human way. This doubtless won't be the last, but it might just end up being my favorite. I hope you like Console LA. Ding. He's a good writer, too. A lot of times geniuses aren't good writers. He's a good writer. And that's what he had to say about Console LA. And of course, that's why I chose it. Because my favorite sounds are from the 70s. That's my sonic jam. I don't like the 80s sound. Except for, with some exceptions, okay? Like Talking Heads, I consider that 80s sound, but still very much 70s in it, okay? There's just something about the 70s, sonically. Not that I care for all the music, but the sonic imprint of the 70s, that's my jam. But I'm not going to settle for I'm not going to settle for an emulation that falls short. Not going to do it. I'd rather it be fully modern sonically. Like I said, make it digitally beautiful in the way that digital can be, and just do it to the utmost of my ability. Exploit. I'm going to exploit digital for what it does best. Okay? Well, I said, I'll gladly wear the egg on my face. Well, I hope that, maybe if I had to wear the egg on my face, I'll just turn it into like a facial cream, like moisturizer. I'll be glowing. That sounded really dumb, but that's trying too hard, isn't it? Yeah, it is. But that's okay. You get my point. I was just trying to riff even more on the life gives you lemons, make lemonade. okay, forgive me. But anyways, so of course I chose this one, right? And just tingling with anticipation. Like, even if it doesn't work out, I'm grateful for the opportunity to check it out. Almost literally A-B. Okay? And so here it is. And if you made it this far, I appreciate it. But if you made it this far, it can only be because there's something in it for you, right? As it should be. So, when did I last do this song? Last night or the night before? I don't know. It's all running together. Kind words were said to me about this mix. I don't mean to. It's not like I'm trying to come back for more. It's not like that. In a way, I feel kind of sheepish about. It's like, oh, listen to more of this. Not like that. There's something special going on here that I think others can benefit from, but very, very vanishingly few are the ones who will slog through my philosophical meanderings and ruminations to get to the prize. And I do believe it's a prize. And I'm not saying it from any sense of ego. After all, I didn't make this thing. I'm not the genius that made this. Am I overselling it? You decide. I don't think I am. I think there's something special here. This, I'll just say it before I play it. Suddenly, all the little things that were bothering me are not bothering me anymore. It's kind of like I can't eat bread anymore because of the maybe it's the gluten, maybe it's the lectins, but I can eat sourdough if I get my hands on sourdough, because the sourdough takes all the ingredients that make my system react, and it turns them into good stuff. This thing here is like sonic sourdough culture. I think that's perfect right there. Yeah, I'm owning that. This is sonic sourdough culture. But fermentation doesn't take forever. It kind of took forever. And look, every single console plugin has treble, mid, and bass control, and pan, and a fader. And I haven't touched any of them. So I haven't even really begun to exploit this yet. If exploit is the right word. really hesitate to touch those knobs. Not that I could just go back and reset them, no problem. But it's just like I'm so okay. I'm hyping this up way too much. I'm going to stop that. It's not cool. Right. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to bypass all of them. Unfortunately, I can't bypass all of them at once with just like one click. Maybe there's a way, but I just don't know how. But I don't think there's a way. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to switch them all off. And up here, I'm going to switch the Console LA bus plugin off. So they're all, Console LA is all switched off, okay? And this one right here, I'm going to switch off as well. This is going to be a long one because there's riches in here. Switch that off too. This is how it sounded, basically, with one little EQ adjustment in one of the vocal tracks, but it's like very subtle. All right. So I'm going to play this first verse and refrain. And then I'm going to stop and I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to quietly, silently switch them back on and hit play again. And you come to your own conclusions. I really don't mean to be putting too precious of a spin on this, okay? And if I am overly enthusiastic and I'm gushing, then that's my thing. I'll feel sheepish about it later. That's my problem. Okay, but all right, here we go.
the crows. No more distant thunder. I have seen yet another spring and summer come and go. Dropped like a knife, stripped like a wire, dreaming the spark, frozen in flight. Life in the dark breathes its very own fire.
hear tape. I don't say it lightly. The warmth, the space, the glue, the kind of very, very, very gentle glue with no compressor in the two bus. There's no glue compressor in there. There's also his Air Window Guy's tape emulator in there. This one, which is I always have that in my two bus, always at these settings. There's also, of course, Real Bus at my new preferred preset hyper. There's also another couple of things going on here, but I don't care what anybody says. I am kind of speechless. And it's very fitting after I popped off the other night. I made my pronouncements, came to my conclusions, and whammo. Yeah. That's right. That's how things go. It is. And it's beautiful. How they go. And speaking of the timing, my buddy that I did the music festival with, he just sent me a little comment on the WhatsApp app just now. This I just didn't think this was possible. Maybe I'm still right in a way. It's like it's not maybe 100%, but it's so close, man. I can't say no to it. And if I can pull this off on the other mixes, this is a new part of the workflow right here. I'll probably carry on doing it in Cakewalk as long as I can. But there it is. And if that project file hadn't gotten mysteriously deleted, then I wouldn't have discovered this. I wouldn't have been in a position to receive this. Now, let me point out another little thing that's going on here. Two actually. Again, from the Air Windows Toolkit. And now that I have this this new stage in my workflow, I can begin exploring more of these things in the Air Windows Toolkit with much more acuity. Here's this thing called inflamer. It's based on the Oxford inflator. Do you know what that is? I didn't. But I looked it up, and I want to read that first, just in case you don't know. So, here. What is the Oxford inflator? Hang on a second, I just lost my... There we go. Right. There we go, okay. What is the Oxford inflator? The Oxford inflator is a plugin developed by Sonox that is used to add presence, warmth, and loudness to tracks without compromising dynamic range or clarity. It is designed to enhance the sound's impact by providing rich harmonic warmth and punch, making it stand out in the mix without unwanted distortion. The Oxford inflator is known for its unique ability to increase perceived loudness while retaining musicality, making it a versatile choice for any stage of audio production, from mixing to mastering. It is not a compressor or a limiter, but rather a harmonic enhancement and loudness tool that can be placed almost anywhere in the mix or mastering chain. The plugin is celebrated for its ability to add density to audio sources, which can be used for subtle enhancement or to make a track explode with intensity, all without squashing dynamics or adding unwanted distortion. The Oxford inflator. This is their Windows guy's take on Oxford inflator, done his way. And I'm not going to read through the whole blurb, but that's what it's based on. Okay? Enough said for that. Don't need to read his blurb. So a lot of it's technical, and this is what we're dealing with. It's the kind of thing that it is, right? And I never used it before. But I thought, yeah, it's a good place to give it a go. And so I'll just pick a section of the song and A/B it. I just let's start. I don't know. Let's click here.
So hold on, everyone.
Off.
Just a little bit longer.
Here, I'll A/B it over here because you couldn't see my mouse. Okay. One more time. I'll be clicking it on and off down over here to the lower right.
So hold on, everyone. Just a little bit longer. For as the shadows grow, so must our souls.
Do you hear that? Let's try another section.
Come here to lose my way.
That doesn't add any gain to the signal. It doesn't add any loudness. It doesn't register as additional loudness. It doesn't drive the lux meter up. As incredible as that might sound. And finally, this is something that I've actually used extensively for a long time, but is a good case for what it does. It's called bass drive. And often it'll work just fine without even tweaking any of the knobs. But I did tweak the knobs a little bit. And it's on this synth part here. That it wasn't standing out in the mix nearly enough, but I didn't want to turn it up, because turning it up, just turning the fader up, was not a viable option. And so we're in a good section of the song for that. I'll back up just a little bit. So soloed, it sounds like this. Okay. And I'll turn the bass drive off, and then I'll switch it on. Let me unsolo it first, of course. Well, listen to it soloed A-B. It doesn't turn up the volume. It does something like redistributing peaks. It's like wave shaping or something like that. But holy, okay, so it's not adding any energy. It's reshaping it or redistributing it somehow. Listen to it in the mix. I'll start with it on, and then I'll turn it off, and then back on again.
Did I come here to pray? Did I come back to find that old path? Did I come here to lose my way?
It's exactly what I wanted it to do. I wanted those things to poke out in a very pleasing and organic way that it just wasn't happening by just turning it up. You follow? Okay, so this has been a very long one indeed. And I'm tired, man. Make no mistake. But even if this never gets watched, it was at least important for me to do. And it was important for me to talk about these things. But I hope that it finds its intended audience and serves them well. I'm going to do a TLDW right after this, where I'm just going to play. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to do the same A-B, just play it. Because I think it's that remarkable of a discovery that, I don't know, some people might not have time to listen to this whole thing, or maybe not the need or inclination or whatever, but you should still know about Console LA, man. If that's what you're into, if you like, this is my jam, 100%. So, that's it from lovely, scenic Pacha City, South Korea. I forget the name of the monk, but there's a story from the Mahayana Buddhist traditions that it's the jhana or Zen or Korean pronunciation sun tradition. They kind of take their tradition back to this story that the Shakyamuni Buddha was addressing his great multitude of monks and lay people, and of course bodhisattvas, divine beings in attendance, all hanging on his every word. And I'm paraphrasing, and I might not be getting it exactly right, but it's something like this. So the Buddha, he says, I'm ready to give my final transmission. You know, like the final word, you know. Except there was no word. People are waiting for the final word, and there's no word. There's only silence. Except that the Buddha simply holds up a single flower and just holds it up. And one of the monks out there, his name escapes me, saw that and broke out into a radiant smile. And the Buddha smiled back and said, he said, give that man a cigar.